This is Afro Economics with J.B. Bryan. Afro Economics is a strategic financial management program designed for the advancement of Black wealth in America and abroad.
Welcome to the Carl Nelson Show on Washington, D.C.'s 1450 WOL Radio and live around the world on WOLDCnews.com.
And thank you for checking in with us, folks. We hope you had a great weekend. Later, the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, Omali Yeshitela, will return. Chairman Omali will talk about Trump's recent racist tweets and also the Democratic presidential hopefuls' response to the socialism tag that's being put on some of them. They also update us on the Black is Back 10th anniversary program and the 5th anniversary of the Ferguson Rebellion and more. But before we meet with Chairman Omali, financial advisor J.B. Bryan from AfroEconomics is here to give us an update on the first quarter update on what we've achieved or lack of in this first quarter. J.B., welcome back to WOL Radio.
It's good to be back. How are you, Carl?
We're doing good.
Yes.
I wish we could say we were all doing good, financially. That would be a great day.
Yes. Hopefully we're doing better because they are listeners, and we've been talking at least once a quarter. So if they're doing even a little bit of what we talk about, they've got to be better off. I mean, we have given out some major tips about tax strategies, about entrepreneurship, that this is a strong economy. We are in it. Afro Economics is my 100% commitment to building wealth within the Black community. We have a 100% free membership. So if there's anybody that listens and they're not taking advantage of financial empowerment, I'm going to have to say that is an individual choice, because I don't think anyone that hangs with us should be poor. We're all about empowerment, and that's what we do. And that's why you asked me to come back. And if I don't say one thing that helps you make more money, then you obviously just don't want to make more money.
Got it. That's what we try to keep our listeners above the curve in every way.
And they are. That's right. And they truly are.
Mark from Anaheim couldn't get in, but he says he would like you to address the advantages of having your money in a credit union instead of having money in a bank. He says, why can't I have the same credit card buying power as others, but I pay twice as much interest for my credit card than some others do?
And is he at a financial institution other than a credit union? Is he kind of in favor of credit unions, or is he in favor of the bank, of the regular bank?
I think he's in favor of the credit union.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, all credit unions are not created equal. So to say credit unions, we wouldn't really be giving our people the proper guidance that they need, because there are a lot of credit unions that are just set up to make money. They're not about the members. So you have to be careful and realize that the credit union, get their bylaws, get the way they do business, go to their board meetings, make sure that the meetings are open to the members. Are they nickeling, diming the members? Like my daughter's school had a credit union, and they were charging more fees, like replacing debit cards and things like that were costing a fee. You can do that at a major bank and not have to pay a fee for replacing your debit card. You can get the major banks will give you a debit card, many of them, immediately. Your credit union will say sometimes that you have to wait for a week or so before you get the card replacement. Those type of inconveniences can be a problem as well. So it really depends on what you're looking for and developing the right relationship, because not all credit unions are created equal. Not all banks are the same as others that have bad bank practices. So just be selective and be specific about what your expectation is for that financial institution.
Wow, interesting. Thank you. Another report I saw today in the Wall Street Journal is saying that home ownership for blacks has dropped in the last quarter, but
I saw that. You posted that. I saw that.
Yeah.
That's right.
What's going on there?
Good article. I definitely get it. And I don't see it as a negative move. I see it as we've become smarter. I hope that we've become smarter, because I've done videos and I've had many conversations about being prepared for home ownership. In many situations, especially in our community, buying a home before your time has been devastating financially. And there was a big drop in the wealth from the 1980s to 2016, looking at the survey on the wealth numbers in the Black community. And a lot of that is from the mortgages that we did, the home values in our majority neighborhoods not recovering from that financial crisis, even though the banks have recovered fully, that the homeowners who now their credit was disturbed, that were basically exploited by these financial institutions that put them in loans that they should have never been in. So I don't see this as a bad thing. What I see it is, and the article did bring out, I'm glad, I said, I bet Carl's going to ask me about this article. I better read it. It said that they think that Black people are afraid to go back and purchase homes. I don't see it that way. I just see that we're making smarter moves. In many situations, the credit criteria for getting a home mortgage is a lot higher. In the past, you didn't even have to use your credit score if you had income. There were some really bad some loans that were going out there just like giving people money. So even when I've done home ownership workshops, I always say it's about being prepared to purchase that home. Many of the programs don't care about your preparedness. They want to tell you how you can get that house with the minimum amount down. They don't want to show you the statistic that the lower the amount that you put in it, the more likely you are to foreclose on that house. That's why they put extra insurance expenses on that loan to cover the likelihood of your foreclosure, because you didn't go into it with the right amount of money down, so you don't have any equity. So if you do have a need to refinance down the road, you don't have any position. You can't. So if the housing value dips, you can't refinance. You can't take advantage of even lower interest rates because you haven't put any into it. So we have to be careful on how we read into these things. I think from a positive perspective that we may be saying there are alternative ways. And I hope that we're saying, what about looking at stock investments? What about how stocks over the last 10 years have outperformed the residential real estate that I might be putting that large lump sum down payment into? So we hopefully are looking at alternative ways for building wealth over time. We might be looking at real estate as an investment tool versus looking at it as for a residence. You might say, because there's a lot of people who are saying, I will rent and I will purchase and rent out. They will rent where they live in their little teeny apartment and purchase a duplex or an apartment building and rent it to others. And they're making rental income. So let's not assume that we are not being smart through this situation, that actually we're saying that maybe there's some alternative ways, other ways, smarter ways. There's other options. Home ownership obviously has not really worked out for us as helping us close, or if anything, unfortunately, it has increased the wealth gap. So for a lot of Black people, Carl, their major asset was their residential property. So when the real estate markets dropped dramatically, they didn't have anything that was recovering and reaching new record highs like the stock market is today, because we never even considered it. We were putting every dime we had into that residential real estate, to that big house, 2-car garage, and just one little person sitting down in the den too often.
You're familiar with the DMV real estate area. What advice would you have for folks who live in the DMV? Should they rent or should they buy?
You need to know what's best for you. I think that if you're going to lock and load and you're not the type of person who will save or maximize your 401k, or you're not confident with looking at other investment options, definitely home ownership, especially for a family with children and things. Home ownership is a way to save over the long term. The value of that property most likely will go up. But in the short term, that there are options, especially if it's just one person, that there are ways that you can cut your expenses by renting and invest smartly invest the money that you're saving from not having the taxes and the maintenance of having that real estate property. But it's what you're doing with that money. So you can't say renting is a waste of money when the person is a smart investor. I know many attorneys, doctors, financial advisors. I know many people that are making 6 digits plus that are renting their residence. So we can't say that renting is dumb, but you have to know what your goals are. I was speaking to a group the other day, and this lady was saying that she was about to retire, and she didn't feel like that she was about to purchase a big home, going into her retirement. And she was just a single person. And I said, well, should I do that? And you really can't tell her, well, that's a bad decision because you'll be wasting your money and you'll be taking most of your pension and going into the biggest debt of your life. And then if she takes it out of her retirement account to buy the house, that's a huge taxable event because she has to pay income on that retirement account, making that huge withdrawal. But you have to really tell the person, take time, talk with an advisor, ask a financial advisor, look at your tax consequences on your move, look at what you truly need. Like many people say they're purchasing a home because they want to save money on their taxes, Carl, but then they find out that they're not even itemizing their taxes. They're taking the standard deduction.
Oh, that's all right there, JB. We got to take a short break here. We got to check the traffic and weather in the DMV, and John in Savannah wants to talk to you, and we'll let you finish that thought on the other side. Folks, you too can join us. Got a question about finances? This is a lady you need to talk to. Reach out to us, 800-450-7876. We'll take your calls next on FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power.
And now back to the Carl Nelson Show on Washington, D.C.'s 1450 WOL Radio.
And thanks for staying with us, folks. We have one of the top financial advisors with us. Her name is J.B. Bryan. She's from Afro Economics. And J.B., I'm going to let you finish your thought before we speak with John in Savannah.
I was just sharing that we need to not go by the old school advice of everything you need to do. This is what you need to do. If you want to be successful, then you need to do this way. Because a lot of the formula, I think we've missed out on. I was looking at this curriculum for high school that you have to go through for personal finance. And a lot of it is structured behind getting a mortgage, getting a car payment, getting all of these things that are financing that we've been told to do. There was no to little talk about entrepreneurship and starting your own business and building wealth, that way. It was all about going into debt, helping out the financial institutions, paying all this interest for base. It could end up being your entire life. So we do need to be aware of follow the money on whenever you're being encouraged to do something. That we haven't really been taught that when you get involved in the stock market, you're basically getting involved in entrepreneurship. You're buying a part of other businesses. You're becoming a business owner through owning shares of ownership in a company. You're positioning yourself for the long-term growth potential of that investment, because we've just been programmed that we have to put all of our money into the car or into the house. Well, so all I say is before you definitely go into any type of debt, make sure that you look at the fine print and speak with a financial advisor about it. Don't just do things because that's the way my grandma always did things. Unless your grandmother, if you do it like your grandmother and your grandmother is a multimillionaire and it worked for her, then that possibly could. But if your grandmother is not the multimillionaire that you want to be and financially independent, the way you want to be, then we have to learn to do things differently. We have to at least look at other options.
All right, 800-450-7876. I mentioned John's waiting for us on line 2, calling from Savannah. John, you're on with JB.
Hello, how are you, Carl?
Good.
Good, it's wonderful. I agree with your guest. It is so true. I'm living in now Savannah. I used to live in Prince William County. I made well over $100,000 a year. It was totally ripped off by the mortgagor and the sales agent. So it's so important that I extricated myself out of the debt because I could file bankruptcy myself. You can't do that today because the Congress and the Senate turned laws against people that are bright like me. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you, Guess 100%. Your show is so invaluable. I want to thank you for having. And I'll just sit back on the side and listen. Thank you very much.
That's what's up, John.
JB, let me ask you this, because I heard some people, college graduates, because you mentioned school, discussing the other day that they think they graduated, because some of them got master's degrees, some just undergraduate, and they think they wasted their time going to college.
Yeah.
They're not finding the job that they went to school for. Your advice for folks some of our young people who are graduating from high school, what advice should you give them? Should they go after that college degree? Is that worth it these days?
You have to get some training. We just have to get the training. We have to. But college is not teaching our people how to make money. And unfortunately, I think it's softening us up. It's not teaching us to get that grind. Like, I worked 3 jobs through undergrad. I worked full time and went to graduate school at night. Like, people aren't doing that. Like, they think that you go to school and you just go to school and then you'll make big money at the end of school. No, like my first job, I told the man, I don't need any money. I just want this job. I want this sales job. Like, I wanted to have an access to unlimited income. That is how I was able to be picked up as the first Black stockbroker at that firm, because they were like, whoa, she knows how to grind. Like, we have to get that into our thought process that just because we get these degrees, because the research shows it. And I was looking at this, like the Institute for Policy has come out with, this information, and I see it everywhere. This Institute for Policy Studies. And if you look into it, it will show you how a Black college graduate is still making less than a white person on average that dropped out of high school as far as wealth, when we're looking at their wealth. Now, we know that our income has been increased over time, but I guess, and then we say to yourself, like, how could that be possible? But just to say that white guy that dropped out of high school became a plumber. He becomes a plumber, or he inherits his plumbing company even better from his dad. So he just goes out, gets his GED, and goes straight into working as the plumber, builds up his business. This man's a millionaire by the time he's 30. We're getting out of graduate school, gone on, got your PhD and everything, and all you have is $500,000 in school loan debt, less or more, but that's creating negative wealth because you don't have enough assets to exceed that, where he's totally into asset mode. He has no loan. It costs him maybe $1,000 to get a certification for the plumber or something. Go HVAC. We're not. So, and then you have this person that goes and gets their master's in nursing, and then the other person goes and does HVAC training, and they have a fraction of the debt of the nursing that we've been programmed to do. So we're going into this debt, and we're thinking, so because wealth is where it is, even though we're looking at income, and you're saying, well, I make, $100,000 on my W-2. You're excited about it. The entrepreneur is making $500,000 through their business, and their taxable income may be lower, but they have they have so many benefits that they can control for themselves, their retirement account. They can set up a pension for themselves. They can buy a vehicle for their business. All of these things that you have to buy, straight from your W-2. And you have the school loan debt. So it really is sad when you think about going to school and never learning to make money, or going to school and only learning to get a job. And then when you get the job, you realize the lack of control that you have. And then if you get the job and they let you go, or you get the job and now your school loans are due and your credit gets messed up because the job isn't making enough money. And there's millions of people who are working and broke because the minimum wage is not enough for them to actually be able to take care of themselves and live on their own. So they're the working poor, and there's millions of us like that with degrees.
Yeah, I'm going to get back to that in a moment, but Forrest is chiming in from Compton, California. He's online too. Forrest, you're on with JB.
JB, how you doing?
Hey, Forrest. Great. Thank you.
Hey, all right. It's good to hear you. I hear you when you come on here all the time.
Oh, great.
Basically, I'm 52.
Okay.
And I really just started learning about money. And there was a guy who called here a couple of weeks ago, and he was explaining money, and it was like from your infancy all the way up to your teenage years or something like that. But he made a lot of sense. I was trying to find out who he was. But anyway, I just bought a house in Compton.
Okay.
And it's my second home. The first one I bankrupt. I didn't know anything about how to keep it. I was like early 20s. And this time, I know a little bit more about money, but it's like I got the home, and I'm trying to teach my kids, they range from 21 through 30, how to not make the same mistakes I made. Mm-hmm. And I know how to tell them what not to do, but what do I tell them to do?
Mm-hmm. I think that you need to tell them, show them how to make money on their own, how to generate income other than having to go ask someone else for a job. And I think that means that we have to make sure that we get skills, that we train. Like when my daughter was 5 years old, I started giving her music lessons because when I became 16, I had to work at McDonald's. And I know that my daughter now is an accomplished cellist, and cellists just on lessons to teach little kids how to pluck, they get paid like $50 an hour. Her first one at a private school that was teaching her, she was charging $65 an hour. And I said, there's no way. And I was thinking this at 5 years old. I said, my daughter will be able to teach other people's kids how to do this. She doesn't have to be like Yo-Yo Ma or anything if that's not God's will. But I'm teaching her how to not have to get into that McDonald's cycle. I didn't have anything else I could do as a teenager. So we can teach them how to be entrepreneurs to do. I remember this little Indian dude in the neighborhood when I was 10. He had he was delivering newspapers, and I needed to make money. So he said, you can deliver newspapers when I can't deliver newspapers. And then I found out that he was making money off me delivering the newspapers. So he was doing his homework. He had already learned. I Googled him the other day. He's like big time, like doctor, and going over to India and everything and coming back over here and has all this thing set up. But he had figured that out back then, how to subcontract this little girl and make her work for me, and I could sit at home and make money. And if he was really smart, he would have had a couple of dudes like all over the neighborhood, everybody delivering for him. He really would have been doing it. But that's the way, the mindset that we have to develop to our kids so that they'll never, ever be broke. They say, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach him how to fish, he eats for life. We don't teach each other enough because when you go to school, all they're teaching us.
Hang on a second, JB. Hang on a sec, JB. And Morris, stay with us. We got to take another short break. Folks, you too can join our discussion with JB Bryan, financial advisor. Reach out to us at 800-450-7876. Your calls are next on FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power.
And now back to the Carl Nelson Show on Washington, D.C.'s 1450 WOL Radio.
Thanks for staying with us, folks. Our guest is J.B. Bryan from AfroEconomics. We're talking about finances here. You've got a question about finances, and I wish I met J.B. a long time ago. Like I think somebody mentioned, maybe Forrest was on hold, and Compton mentioned it, or maybe it was the other caller. But folks, you want to take advantage of this great financial advisor? Reach out to us, 800-450-7876. Let's go back to J.B. So, J.B., let's finish your response to Forrest's first question.
Well, check this out, Forrest and Carl. This is from that study. This study was noted in this book called Umbrellas Don't Make It Rain. And it says, Black families whose heads graduated from college have about 33% less wealth than white families whose heads dropped out of high school. the poorest white families, those on the bottom quintile of the income distribution, have slightly more wealth than black families in the middle quintiles of the income distribution. So we're not just talking about wealth, we're talking about income. Wow. Lord, just also. So the average black household would have to save 100% of their income for 3 consecutive years to overcome the obstacles to wealth parity by dint of their own savings activity. I don't know what they mean by that, but I guess they'd have to put a dent in their they'd have to put a dent in their whole lifestyle. But definitely, I think that you can check that out. And umbrellas don't make it rain. But I don't find a lot of power in those statistics because. So that's why it's always important to me to say, well, why would that be possible? How could that be possible? Because when I look at the statistics, you don't have to give your children the inheritance, because according to, which we have to do, but I'm just saying, according to the stats, about 20% of the millionaires out here got their status from an inheritance. So we need to make sure that we bring that into our thought process, that because you don't have money, you're not harming your children. But because you're ignorant, you are harming your child. So bad debt habits, like the Bible says, our people shall perish due to lack of knowledge. It didn't really, it doesn't say because of racism, but because of lack of knowledge of understanding how we're going to make this jacked up system work for us. That's knowledge based, that we cannot give up. So it's like I have to empower my child because a lot of people, when you look at it, the research, even black rich people, their children get jacked up when they don't teach their children properly of discipline. So the best thing that we can teach each other is discipline. The discipline that it requires to not spend, to put a dent into your spending habits so that you can save and close up that gap. Now, I know because of the effort that it takes to be an entrepreneur, that effort out leads to a change in my life. And I could tell you horror stories of the discrimination that as a nappy-head black woman I have been through, but I still refuse to give up. So I'm going into my 25th year of business, not because of any type of special program that they have, because they don't have set aside programs for black people who start firms that focus on black people. Because many people have told me we could do more to help. We could help your company if you would focus on women and not on this black thing, because we need to do more to help women. Have you seen that? Like, it's all about the women now. It's not about building wealth in the black family or building up the black family. That's what AfroEconomics is about. So there's no one helping us but us. That's why I was like, I have to have this free membership. And my free membership is called No Excuse, because if you follow these principles of developing a legacy, because we cannot afford to not pass on, at minimum, a good name. I have a responsibility to be a good professional for my legacy. Your legacy is everything. We're worried about, life insurance policies. That's cool. But that family name is everything. Your legacy, your credit status, your commitment to financial independence. Even though I read studies constantly and they say that nothing will change in the wealth gap for our people until the policies change for the government. So how many centuries do my people have to wait? Because it's not it's just becoming this popular thing to talk about reparations. But you know what? I'm not going to be able to retire on the money that's owed to me through reparations. It's just not. It's just a political thing now. So I got to keep moving on. So what do I have to do? I have to follow the formula, the AfroEconomics algorithm, get the knowledge. Make a commitment to financial independence. Live within my means. Be healthy. We cannot tear down our health and think you're going to get rich. Even if you tear down your health and you get rich, you're going to be poor soon, because you're not going to be able to afford to take care of yourself. You're going to destroy. And we see a lot of that happening in our community. They'll be very talented, a genius even. But because of our lack of discipline and the habits, it tears into our money, because we can't continue to make money if you tear down your health. It's just a required. So that's why that is a key component of Black wealth. That is an ingredient of AfroEconomics. Black health, Black wealth, they go together. That mental health is where we make these good financial decisions, where we decide, I got to have a legacy. I got to be good to my kids. I got to be organized. I have to be accountable. All of these are a part of that AfroEconomics algorithm. That's what you give your kids. You email me and get the book for free. You join as a free member and you can download the book. You can download the kids' book. You can download the workbook. All of that is free for members. If we don't do it for us, nobody else is going to do it for us.
Forrest, you had a follow-up?
No, basically she told me all that I need to know. I'm going to go ahead and look up your website. Could you give it to me one more time so I can know what to look for?
Sure. AfroEconomics.com or AfroEconomics.org if you want to go straight to the membership site, or go to the .com, AfroEconomics, one word, .com. Click membership. The top one says free membership. There's no strings attached, my brother. Just get in. We have membership meetings every week, and we put in the work. We put it in. So let's do it. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank
Forrest. You.
Jimmy, we're hearing a lot about the Bitcoin, and that now that Facebook is getting involved. So all of a sudden now people are buying Bitcoin, different cryptocurrencies, if you will, and they're marching up the charts now. They're being more valuable. Would you advise people to get into the cryptocurrency race?
I would advise people to make sure they know what they're doing before they get involved with any cryptocurrency. And most importantly, would you invest in something that you have no idea what it's going to do for you, but you will not invest in yourself? That's what is amazing to me. People will buy Bitcoin before they'll start their own business. Before they'll invest in, I'm going to start my own business, they'll take that $1,000 and put it into Bitcoin that you don't know about the tax consequences of what you're doing. You don't know the fees involved of getting out or getting in. You don't know the risk level. Now, if you know all of these answers and you still want to do it, and most importantly, you're maximizing your benefits at work and you're putting away 20% or more of your income through tax-deferred programs at work if you have a job, or you already have your individual retirement account if you don't have a job and you have your own business, and you have these things taken care of, and you still want to do that, then, that's totally up to you. But I would suggest talk to a financial advisor that really cares about you, that can introduce you to some investments that have a lot less risk involved, a lot less. That's just for I think we make making money way too complicated, and we always go after what's so out of reach for us instead of grabbing that low-lying fruit and grabbing it up, and getting that's right there for you. Billions of dollars at work go unmatched because we're not participating in the work retirement plans. So the companies don't have to put the money in because we're not doing it, but we're going out there buying Bitcoin.
I was going to ask you about that because a lot of the new jobs now, Jamie, they're not giving them 401ks. They're not giving them all these benefits
That's right.
like they used to before.
That's right.
So how's a person to save money then? What advice do you have? We
have no excuse. That's why you have individual retirement accounts. You can set those up. We just don't do it. You have to want to do it. That's not their responsibility. Typically, a job that doesn't provide the benefits usually has higher pay. So you might be a contractor and they say, look, you're going to make $100,000 a year. If you go work for somewhere else, you might make 80, so you're making 100, but they want you, they're saying to themselves, but you need to take care of all your own benefits, and you can do that. But what you don't do is take all that money, go start living according to that lifestyle and think that contract's going to last forever. It just doesn't. and then you're mad because you're out of work and you have no savings because the contract ended. You knew the contract was going to end. You knew you were making more money than the market. You knew that job was paying a lot, and you could have been saving half of it. Not to mention just 20% of it or 10% of it. You didn't save any of it. That happens too often.
Hold right there, JB. We got to take another short break and check the traffic and weather again. I want to ask you about the economy is improving so much. How can we take advantage of this improving economy when we can come back next? Right here on FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power.
And now back to the Carl Nelson Show on Washington, D.C.'s 1450 WOL Radio.
800-450-7876. Back to our guest from AfroEconomics, J.B. Bryan. So, J.B., the economy is booming. There's no question about that, at least in some sectors. Mm-hmm. Is it really blowing up? Are people taking advantage of it? All these jobs are being created? Are they low-level paying jobs? If not, how can our folks take advantage of this improving economy?
And I do believe I agree with this study that came out from the Institute on Asset and Social Policy and Demos. It says that it's called the asset value of whiteness. So when we talk about the great economy, I do believe that it is harder for us as Black people to benefit fully from a great economy. It's like we just kind of get the side effects. Like we don't have the speaker system. We just hear the boom, It's like because, the study basically concludes that there is an asset value to whiteness, and that asset value to whiteness is impossible for individual behavior to overcome. And that's like humbling to me as the creator of AfroEconomics, because what I'm saying in AfroEconomics is that our individual, personal, united behavior will close and demolish the gap. What this study is saying is that no, because you don't have the asset value of whiteness. But to me, that also says why it's more important for us to listen to the Carl Nelson Show, for us to read AfroEconomics, for us to, as the brother that called in, that us to get this type of information. Because the benefit that we have to grab from a strong economy is that let's just do the simple stuff. Let's pay our bills off. Let's make sure that we don't get excited and get confused about the asset value of whiteness because we see this on TV that this is doing great and we think it's always going to be this way, and it's not. Things change. Business is full of cycles. It's full of cycles. That's what business is, cyclical. So let's pay off our bills. If you have high interest rates, we're in a declining interest rate. Well, it's rumored that the interest rates are going to continue to start moving downward. So it could be time for you to look into refinancing and locking in lower interest rates because you've been paying your bills off, taking advantage of this great economy, right? We got to make it work for us as much as we can. We got to consider starting a side business and making as much money as you can, saving as much money as you can, paying off stuff as much as you can, because it's not going to always be this way. And then invest for the long term. If you decide you want to invest in residential real estate, make sure that it's for the long term, because invest in the stock market, get more information for the long term. Investing is for the long term. Saving is for the short term. Yes, get that emergency fund straight. Don't do just 3 months of your expenses saved up. Let's do 6 months of the expenses saved up. And then look into things. If you're nearing the end of your career, maybe it's not time to continue to be greedy. Maybe it's time for you to look into guaranteed things. Talk to a financial advisor about how can I lock in these gains that I've made? How can I lock in guaranteed income for the rest of my life? How can I create my own pension plan with this lump sum of money? But look into those types of options. But we have to be smart. And we have to make it work for us realizing, yes, we have our limitations. This is, the way it is. How am I going to maximize it and make it work for you? Use all of the tools that you've got, the discipline that you have, the grind that we're born with, and make it work to our advantage.
All right, I got a tweet question for you.
Yes.
Tweeter says, please ask your guest if she knows about Jeremiah Hamilton, the first black millionaire on Wall Street during the 19th century.
Nah, I'm going to look him up, though. That's so good. Jeremiah Hamilton. Yeah, I wonder what he was, or what he did, or if he was a trader or is an advisor, or, what he did, and what we're going to find out. Go ahead, Jeremiah. But, but I'm going to tell you, Jeremiah might have been there, but we were not allowed to set up brokerage accounts. In my career time, I went to talk to a black family in Virginia, and the lady told her that firm that I was working with, I was the first black person they had, one of the, and I'm one of the few black-owned registered investment advisory firms on the planet, one of the few probably that are 100% black-owned. It's still rare for us to be in this business, especially from the perspective of being licensed and regulated and serving us, because everybody can come on the radio and talk something about money, but I am regulated. Every bit that comes out of my mouth can make or break my career. I have to be careful. So that is, what level we're on. We have to really think about that. We were not allowed. I wasn't allowed there. I wasn't allowed to get a license. And these people were probably born in like the 1920s and things, so their career, and he was a professor, and she was mad because they wouldn't let her husband set up an account like in the 60s. At the investment firm. So he had to buy his stocks and save them in the house. And they had all these stock certificates in their house. And I said, we need to get these out of the house. And the lady said, but I'm not going to take them out of my house because I don't trust them. And that was sad. She, it's really, you know what I mean? And it becomes a state issue because then they have all of these stock certificates that need to be switched over after you pass on. But when we're not welcome, it creates a huge fear and it stagnates our community. And we're working through those things now because you see, it's much easier for us to go into debt and do a mortgage. And we're more likely to have a mortgage than to have an investment account. And that's not by accident. It's because we weren't welcome there. Well, now we are. We got AfroEconomics. Yes.
Right. For the folks who are listening and they're trying to get ahead and they're just living paycheck to paycheck, they want to start saving and they want to start investing, got bad credit.
Yep.
What sort of advice do you give those folks?
I do a lot of credit help. Join AfroEconomics. Do it at minimum, the free one. And then you start having an awareness about money all the time. And I'm doing free topics and free members meetings and my webinars every Wednesday. Get yourself in an environment that's about doing better. You will become hesitant. If all you hear about is healthy food, the next time you see a piece of fried catfish, you'll be hesitant. So if you're in my zone and you're like, oh no, JB Bryan, told me I got to stop doing this, you will not go to the mall and start and continue to just buy these miscellaneous things. You will face it head on. What I do, because I can tell you all, I've been through it. So I'm teaching through experience of how you can have great credit. You can go through a divorce, have messed up credit, and then end up with great credit. But that took really serious work. You have to put in that time. And I'm not in a position to ever file bankruptcy. You can't do that in financial services. So, you're talking to someone who had a baby, husband left her with a 4-week-old and had to recover and continue building my business, make payroll with employees depending on me. So AfroEconomics is about living proof that we can get through it and we can recover.
On the personal side, did hubby ever come back now that you're pretty successful?
No, yeah, well, I never took him back. So that's a blessing. I never needed him back. And it's 17 years later. We were taking senior portraits this morning. That's a blessing. And I feel better, happier, healthier than ever before. I can't wait till graduation so I can have my glamour shot right next to my baby.
And the major, is she talking college? Are you on the personal side again? Is
yes.
College or?
I'm hoping that she'll go to my alma mater, which was University of Virginia. You know, she's just like, Mom. I'm like, girl, that's my legacy. I paid that price for you. So they have where they encourage us to encourage our kids to come, of course. So I'm like, that's my legacy. That's part of your inheritance, that you get the privilege of being smiled upon when your application comes in the door. But so, I mean, and, you know, I'm a good alumni. I'm a lifetime member of the Alumni Association. Hey, I support. So definitely I'm about her, you know, continued education. But the hard part is, because my life has been so challenging, I've gone out of my way to make her life way too easy sometimes, I think. And I think a lot of us are guilty of that. So now I have to, you know, make sure that she realizes I never had a car. I didn't get a car until I had my first job offer. You know, I was working all those jobs. I didn't have all these things. My grandmother used to send me government cheese to the dorm. I had to work in the cafeteria to have a meal. I didn't have a meal plan. I couldn't afford the meal plan. And that wasn't because my parents didn't have money. That was because I was the last of four, and my dad was from North Carolina, and he said, I do it, you do it. And so my dad was like one of the first in his family to get a PhD from New York University. So he wasn't playing. Like we were doing well. So we have to learn to do well. And this, my dad.
Hold that story first.
Yes.
Right. Hold on. I want to hear the rest of that story. We got to take a short break here. We're closing on the top of the hour, so we've got to allow some of our stations to identify themselves down the line. Stations like FM 95.9 and AM 1450, WOL, where information is power.
Welcome to the Carl Nelson Show on Washington, D.C.'s 1450 WOL Radio and live around the world on WOLDCnews.com.
Thank you for staying with us, folks. Our guest is J.B. Bryan. She's from AfroEconomics. She's a financial advisor. J.B., I'm going to let you finish your thought.
Well, I was sharing about my father being the youngest of 11 and the work ethic that he gave me from coming from North Carolina, working the fields, going to college, meeting my mom, getting married. They're having a baby. My father graduating first to his class, still with a newborn baby in my mom's hands. He leaves. He gets an offer to go he applies to University of Virginia. And then University of Virginia says, we accept you, but we want to pay you to go somewhere else. That's the level that it was back then. So they paid my father to go to a different college to avoid him coming to University of Virginia. So my father went to Temple. Then after he went to Temple, he started working back at his HBCUs. He worked for HBCUs for 30 years. And then after during that tenure, he got his PhD, became president of an HBCU, of two different HBCUs. And then when I was applying for college, my counselor wanted me to apply to University of Virginia. And that's when I learned that story. And then now I have my experience, of course, was at University of Virginia. I attribute the whole changing direction, my whole work ethic, my whole learning to focus, the decision that I'm in financial services is from going to University of Virginia and going into the McIntyre School of Commerce there. And I just became very focused on learning about something that my family never was about. We were all just about education. And then all of a sudden I was like, this is really cool. Even though when you're in business school, you don't learn anything about personal finance. You only learn about corporate finance. And I think a lot of us don't understand that. Even my accounting and finance major was on corporate. My personal finance exposure was from extra classes that I actually took in the college, in the School of Arts and Sciences. And so it is interesting that the things that you will go through in life that I didn't want to do. I didn't want to go to University of Virginia, but Howard University said, oh, we don't have any space for you in the dorm. And I applied early, and it was the only school on the planet I wanted to go to. And they said, but you're going to need to find an apartment. My dad was like, look, you don't have any money. So I ended up, that's how University of Virginia ended up being there. And now it'll create a legacy, hopefully for my daughter as well. But our legacy goes way back. And the first Black graduate from University of Virginia was my father's mentor from Elizabeth City State University. And he ended up being the president of ECSU. So we are all intertwined in some strange ways. But I say all that to say that our history has paid too many prices forward for us we cannot afford to be lazy. And that's why I try to instill, and all of us that are doing well have to put that into our children, that our success isn't deep enough. Like our roots aren't deep enough in this tree. This tree can be blown over. So we need every generation to get them roots deeper and deeper and deeper into a foundation of financial independence, intelligence, great ethic, strong family names. That has to be what we give. That has to be our commitment.
Right. And before we let you go, you tweeted me about Jeremiah Hamilton, the only African-American broker on Wall Street, and he became a black millionaire in the mid-19th century. Same time, black intellectuals disparaged his relentless pursuit of wealth as crass and undignified. So next time we come back, because...
And I see that. I get that a lot. I know exactly what he's saying.
I want to talk about that,
Yes, please.
A lot of our folks think that you have to take a vow of poverty for your blackness to be authentic.
Or they just want you to be an intellectual. Like, they just think that you should just, say I'm book smart. And because I'm book smart, it's okay to be broke. We can be book smart and have wealth. That is not, you don't have to have one or the other. And we have to move past that mentality, that you're Dr. So-and-so and that it's okay to be broke. It's not okay to be intelligent and broke. That's not intelligent.
All right, we're going to talk about money, too, with our next guest, Chairman O'Malley. But before we do that, how can folks reach you?
Definitely call 1-844-JB-Bryan or 1-833-ASK-AFRO or go to Afro. Your people love going on the internet. So go to AfroEconomics.com, click the chat, or go to the contact click, or go to jbbryan.com. I'm all over the internet. You have no excuse. Get that free financial empowerment. I have a workshop coming up on Wednesday. Register for it. I have the Afro Economics team. If you call, we will call you back and I will talk to you completely free. You are a friend. If you're a friend of Carl's, you're a friend of mine. We're all together. We're family. I got you. It's all good. Just call.
Thank you, JB.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work that you do, trying to bridge that financial wealth gap between us and the rest of the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Today's podcast was powered by JB Bryan Financial Group, a registered investment advisory firm and the home of Afro Economics in Virginia, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and New York.